Well, 13th April rather, and not March, April 2020. Today marks the 1 month since the first case of coronavirus was reported in the country. And of course, Kenya has crossed the 200 mark to report 208 cases in the country with over 40 recoveries of COVID-19. And of course, we also have Winnie who has been reported to have been infected with COVID-19. And of course, the oldest being reported at 49 years. And this is according to the new cases that were reported today by Health CS, and that is Mutahi Kagwe, of course, bringing the total number of new COVID-19 cases in the country to 11. Well, before we delve much into the numbers in the country, let's take a look at how we are faring on as far as the global cases of COVID-19 is concerned. Look over here, we have over 1 million, and that is 1.8 million, 1,883,119. And that is confirmed, total confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally. We have 117,569, and these are the total deaths reported globally. And of course, we have 185 countries or regions that have been affected by COVID-19. So, well, what does that mean in terms of the global scale? And of course, narrowing it down to the countries. As you can see over here, the patterns, North America and Europe have actually more of the red patterns as compared to, Africa and South America as well as Asia. Remember earlier on, Asia had the most red pattern or the red dots. But right now that has shifted to North America and Europe, over here with, of course, the US, experiencing a lot of, cases of COVID-19 with 560,891. And this is in the US alone. And then we're talking about 169,496. And this is in Spain. And we have 159,516 cases. And that is in Italy. And of course, narrowing it all down, of course, China, follows at 83,213. And that is cases of confirmed COVID-19. Of course, like we said earlier on, 185 countries or regions have been affected by the same. Over 100,000 deaths have been reported. But then over here, of course, the US are trying as much as possible to ensure that they test lots and lots of people as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So the total number of people who have been tested in the US stands at over 2 million, and we're talking about 2,821,149. And of course, New York, of course, being one of the cities that have been affected mostly. Of course, we're talking about states rather. We're talking about 461,601 people that have been tested for COVID-19. But other than that, of course, we have 443,816, and this is the total number of people that have recovered globally as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So we have that and much more as far as what's happening in the world as far as COVID-19 is concerned. 1 month in, and Kenya records 208 new cases, or cases rather, of COVID-19. Does that mean that we are doing well? Remember, the Ministry of Health projected that by the end of April, we will have 10,000 cases. And right now we are at 208, and of course it's almost mid-month, and that is as far as April is concerned. So what does that mean for us as a country? Well, you want to stick around till the end of the bulletin for that and much more. This is Ebru TV Primetime News. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Once again, welcome to the broadcast. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Our sign anchor tonight is Joyce Wairimo. Now, Kenya has crossed the 200 mark for COVID-19 cases as the country marks 1 month since the announcement of the first case in the country. Health CS Mutahi Kagwe has announced 11 new cases of COVID-19, raising the number to 208, with one person succumbing to the illness. Take a look.
The CS also announced that in the last 24 hours, 674 samples were tested.
Out of these samples, 11 have tested positive for coronavirus disease. And so we have now passed the 200 mark. Our figure stands at 208 persons tested positive in our country.
According to the CS, 4 of the new cases have a history of travel to the United Arab Emirates and have been in mandatory quarantine centers. At the same time, CS Kagwe announced that 14 patients have been discharged from hospital after recovering from coronavirus.
6 are male, while 5 are female, aged between 1 year and 42 years. Cumulatively, therefore, we have 15 new recoveries in the last 24 hours, bringing the total figure of recoveries to 40.
CS Kagwe also confirmed 1 more coronavirus death from a patient in Nairobi, bringing the total number of coronavirus deaths to 9. He pointed out that the government has scaled up response to COVID-19 in the country, with 140 million shillings channeled towards the rapid response and fight against the highly contagious virus. Kenyans will, however, have to wait longer before mass testing begins. Isiolo Governor Mohamed Kuti has also called on the counties to follow what Nairobi, which was considered the epicenter of COVID-19, did to halt the spread of COVID-19 in their counties.
Where we are having a lot of challenge in terms of behavior change, in terms of the call for social distance, is still in the counties, especially the rural counties. People at the markets, I'm glad churches and mosques have been closed. That has helped a lot. But at the market, open air markets, and in towns, in supermarkets, in the rural areas, people are not very serious. And since now we are starting to see cases appearing in the counties, our worry now is actually those counties.
Of the new cases, Nairobi has recorded 2, Mandera 4, Mombasa 3, Nakuru 1 and Machakos 1. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
And still on the same, Kenyans will have to adjust to the new normal as far as disposal of bodies is concerned. Now, in his daily address on COVID-19 updates in the country, an apologetic CS Mutahi Kagwe says cultural practices on burials may not be practical at the moment. This comes after a video emerged showing the disposal of the body of James Oyugi, who worked at Kenya Ports Authority in Mombasa.
The video of the burial that was shared on social media showed officers in protective gear carrying a body bag out of a pickup car. This elicited hue and cry both online and offline as Kenyans demanded for a dignified burial for loved ones. However, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe said Kenyans will have to bear with the new way of disposing of bodies of those infected.
This is an issue that we are currently addressing together with the county government of Siaya in line with public health and sensitivity to the dead are concerned. However, I want to inform the country that moving forward, there will be challenges. I want to say in an honest term as I can and be brutally honest that our cultural practices on how we dispose the bodies of our loved ones may not be practical in an extreme situation.
His sentiments were shared by Education CS, who urged people of Siaya to bear with the new directives.
Our goal here is to ensure that the disease is controlled. And we have given various protocols which must be done. And there's a very big risk of people leaning towards culture and forgetting that what has been done is in the overall interest of the immediate family, the extended family, and the family at large. So I would like our people to bear that in mind as you condemn or have anything to say.
Oyugi, who worked at Kenya Ports Authority in Mombasa, traveled from Mombasa on April 5th with his wife and 2 daughters. According to the police report, he slept in Nairobi on April 5th and was involved in a 9-injury accident at Awasi Market and slept in Kisumu on April 6th. Police in Siaya further say that he developed a cough on April 10th and was rushed to Matibabu Foundation Private Hospital. Samples taken to the Kenya Medical Research Institute, Kemri in Kisumu on April 11th tested positive for coronavirus. Police then directed that the body be disinfected and buried, all contacts be traced and put in a mandatory quarantine at an isolation center in Siaya. Following the inhumane burial of Oyugi, Siaya Governor Cornel Rasanga has appointed a 3-member team to investigate who issued directives for the late James Oyugi to be buried in a manner against the family wishes. The Siaya Governor further said that the county will take disciplinary action against those involved. He also warned those in Public Health Department to stop operating without consulting their bosses. Busana Naman for Ebru TV.
Now, following that incident and in the wake of increasing COVID-19 cases and death globally, the Ministry of Health in the country has issued a raft of guidelines to be followed for safe disposal of patients who have succumbed to the new coronavirus. The guidelines, developed in line with World Health Organization protocols and the Public Health Act Cap 242 of the laws of Kenya, will prevent infection as well as control of the spread of the disease.
Healthcare workers and anyone involved in the management of burial or suspected confirmed COVID-19 patients will be required to adhere to the guidelines. From the guidelines, 3 main processes will be involved: identification of the deceased, certification of death, and disposal of the human remains. Before the process, the cause of death has to be established. If it is a natural death without COVID-19 concern, then the body will be taken to a funeral home or crematorium. However, if preliminary investigation meets the definition for coronavirus at the time of death, the Ministry of Health shall be notified and assume jurisdiction to determine the need for laboratory confirmation and autopsy. Before commencement of the handling of the remains, the family will be fully informed about the dignified burial process and their religious and personal rights to show respect for the deceased. The team which will handle the funeral will include a family representative, a public health officer, local administrator, chief or assistant chief, security, and any other co-opted health professional. The steps to be followed during the interment will be as follows: arrival of the body disposal team, to which the staff should not be wearing personal protective equipment upon arrival, greet the family and offer condolences before unloading the necessary material from the vehicles, request respectfully for a family representative. The communicator should liaise with the family representative for the final rites. Before handling the remains, health officials will be required to be in protective gear and will spray the body before placing it in the appropriate body bag. If a coffin is necessary, it will be placed outside the house, and then the body will be placed by health officials in full protective equipment. A family representative in gloves will then be allowed to close the coffin, after which it will be disinfected. The body will then be interred. After the burial, health officials will disinfect rooms, clothes, or other items that the deceased may have used or interacted with before they leave the home. Deaths occurring outside a health facility will be reported through the established guidelines for notification of deaths from infectious disease causes. So far, Kenya has recorded 8 deaths, with a recent disposal of the body of a 59-year-old man identified as James Oyugi happening in Siaya.
All right, Kenyans online and offline, of course, have criticized the way Oyugi's body was handled. Of course, some of them saying that was not dignified at all. So, of course, the matter is under investigation, and we await to see what will come out of the investigation. But for now, let's move on. And Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has urged parents to be patient, as the ministry has ensured that once the fight against COVID-19 is won, normalcy will resume in the education sector. Magoha further urged students to take advantage of the lessons offered by the ministry through television and radio. Take a listen.
I think what is in the mind of every Kenyan is what is happening to the children. The first point is that the children are at home and they are safe. The second point is that we are offering online education through a battery of systems, and a large number of those children are carrying on with their learning as is expected. The third point is you are going to ask me that there are some children that cannot receive online education. That is correct, and that is being addressed as we speak through various machineries. The fourth point is when will the schools open? I think your answer is as good as mine, but in order to allow the nation to become, you are aware that our facilities are being utilized for the time being to control the coronavirus disease with very good results, extremely good results, because we had projected about 5,000 at this time, and we are only at 200. But people should have peace because we are working on various modalities. When the time is ripe, we shall tell you the various options, which again will depend on my brother Kagwe's handling of this matter, which he has been doing with sterling efficiency.
Now, the National Muslim COVID-19 Committee have expressed their level of preparedness and management of victims of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is after the Ministry of Health directed that all bodies should be buried within 24 hours. Kind of Stefano tells us more.
Na ikiwa amefariki nyumbani, kwa sababu sio kila mtu ambaye anafariki hospitalini, ni lazima wale wahusika wapige simu. Tuna namba ambayo tumetoa hapa ambayo haina ushuru wowote, toll free 719, ili wanaohusika au walio na utaalamu waweze kuthibitisha kuwa amekufa kwa maradhi gani.
These measures have been taken to combat the spread of COVID-19 in the country.
Kwanza kabisa tunawahimiza Waislamu wakubali kuwa huu ugonjwa upo na hauchagui Muislamu na asiyekuwa Muislamu. Pili, tunajua kuwa mambo ambayo huwa tunayafanya kwa kawaida hatuwezi kuyafanya sasa katika ugonjwa kama huu, na lazima tuweze kuchukua mikakati ya kuzuia maradhi yasienee. Kwa hivyo kwanza tunawafunza watu namna ya kuweza kushughulikia maiti iliyothubutu kuwa amekufa kwa maradhi ya corona. Kwa hivyo ikithubutu, tuachie wale ambao wanahusika ambao wamepata mafunzo na madaktari waweze kushughulikia ule mwili, na sio lazima aoshwe vile inavyooshwa tunavyoosha maiti kila wakati, kwa kuzuia watu kupata yale maradhi kusambaa, yale maradhi yasianze kusambaa.
The National Muslim COVID-19 Committee now urges mosques across the country to follow the Ministry of Health guidelines as they continue to create awareness of the disease.
Tumeweza kupata watu ambao wamejitolelea, volunteers, ambao wamepewa mafunzo maalum na wataalamu wetu wa kimatibabu, ili waweze kuwa wao ndio wanaitwa ikiwa kunatokea kifo mahala popote, wao ndio wanaweza kwenda kutoa msaada hapo. Lakini kwa vile tunajua hatuwezi kufika kila pembe ya nchi na Waislamu wako kila mahali, tumeweza kwanza kuzingatia miji mikubwa ambapo Waislamu ni wengi.
This is after the Ministry of Health directed that COVID-19 victims' bodies to be buried within 24 hours to avoid the risk of infection.
Pia tuna vyombo vya habari. Kwanza tuna mitandao ya kijamii na pia vyombo vya kawaida, conventional media, kama vile radio na TV na magazeti. Kwa hivyo tunataka kupitia njia mbalimbali za kuweza kufikisha habari kila mahali.
So far, 9 people have succumbed to this deadly virus as cases in the country continue to rise.
It has been unanimously agreed that Muslims who die as a result of COVID-19 will not be subjected to the ritual washing procedure to prevent infections and the spread of the disease. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kind of Stefano.
Right, thank you very much, Kind of Stefano, for that. Now, in the wake of the surging pandemic in the country, 2 tailors have heeded the call of Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe in lending a helping hand during this unprecedented times. Oscar Odhiambo and Kennedy Ochieng have decided to make masks and distribute them to Lakisama area residents in Ruaraka constituency. Our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim caught up with them and files the following story.
Extraordinary times calls for extraordinary measures, even as the government continues to intensify the war against COVID-19. Here in Lucky Summer area in Ruaraka constituency, we caught up with two tailors who have surprised the community around them. Oscar Dhiambo and Kennedy Ochieng have been sewing for years, and during this unprecedented times, they have decided to follow the trend of making masks. One mask, according to Kennedy, takes 5 minutes to be made, and the mask has 3 layers.
So, as in, unajua watu wengi sasa wanauza mask. So sisi tuliona tu ile time tuko free tu kuna job zile kidogo kidogo, but tuliona ile time tuko tu free tunaweza shona juu. Kushona moja can take 5 minutes.
Tukishona mask since walisema minimum ni layers 3. Tunatumia hizo 3. Tunatumia hizo 3, so ya katikati inafaa kuwa kind of filter kidogo.
You will expect something that takes time and sweat to be capitalized on, especially during this time when businesses have been adversely affected by COVID-19. But according to Oscar, there is a bigger picture than making profits.
Cabinet wa health akisema mayouth watoke na wasaidie gava kukombati COVID-19, tuliona out of hizi material tuko nazo zenye tumeshonea ma customers zimebaki, tuliona tushone tu mask ile time tuko free tupe watu, because kuna watu hawezi zi afford, ama watu sahi watu na need mask, na unapata mtu akiwa na moja labda yezi msaidia, ama ikiwa chafu tena ana. So tuliona instead tushone na tupeane tu for free.
The two have decided to forego making profits and maintain that their choice was based on aiding the Ministry of Health in combating the deadly COVID-19.
Job na iko chini, busy iko chini, unajua tu sahi kila mtu, watu do imepotea, wengine labda kama sisi watu wa kushona sasa, mtu labda hiyo kushona hajaipea priority sahi. Labda mtu anaona buy food na hizo manini za sanitizer ni.
Normally, the mask goes for 50 shillings, especially now when it is mandatory to wear them in public places.
Because sasa hizi manguo ziko fabric, and then pia hii elastic na hizo so labor like, so ingekuwa wanauza na 50 go.
To avoid overcrowding at the shop, Oscar and Kennedy have chosen to prepare a list that will enable them to distribute the mask efficiently.
Because ile pia to avoid crowd, tunapeana date na kuambia kujia saa 8 ama kujia kesho. Because ukianza kusema unauza free, au azini unapeana free, unajua watu wata crowd na watu watakuwa wengi, na hiyo ndo pia hiyo ni haifai watu wa crowd.
Few meters behind Oscar and Kennedy's shop, police officers in the area rounded up residents who were overcrowded at a PlayStation shop for failing to adhere to the Ministry of Health regulations. The officers refused to comment on the matter, but what baffled the residents looking on is the irony of the arrest, as neighbors were shouting at the police to keep social distance after placing the suspects inside their car. Oscar and Kennedy are urging other youth to join in the fight against COVID-19 as cases here in the country continue to soar, and also around the globe. Abdiaziz Hashim, Ebru TV, from Ruaraka constituency, Nairobi County.
All right, thank you very much, Abdiaziz Hashim, for that, and very generous of those two. Well, if you find yourself in Lucky Summer area, you never know, you might get yourself a free mask. Well, aside from that, let's not forget that today marks Easter celebration. And of course, Easter celebrations was witnessed across the world as Christians celebrated the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. However, this year's Easter celebration was different as many faithfuls marked the celebrations indoors amid COVID-19 pandemic. Take a look.
The day is of a great importance to Christians around the world as they converge in churches to celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. However, many remained indoors and few cars were witnessed on the roads. During this period, you would have witnessed many cars on the road, as well as people, but the surging pandemic has halted crucial events here in the country. Shops in the city were closed and only a few were open for business. At Uhuru Park, you would have seen kids running around, enjoying themselves during these celebrations, but they were nowhere to be seen as parents decided to keep them at home to prevent them from the novel coronavirus.
And kuhusu Easter, I think kulinganisha na Easter zingine, okay, kuna kuanga na watu wengi, watu wanaenda church, and right now it's like hakuna watu mpaka town yenyewe haina watu.
Businessmen and women at the park were affected by the lack of people.
Biashara iko chini kabisa, hata hakuna wateja, hata sana vile soda iko, hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Sasa hii biashara iko chini kabisa.
Yenyewe biashara yetu iko chini sana, juu sana tunasaidia na watoto. Wazazi wamekatalia na watoto kwa manyumba. Kwa hivyo hakuna activity yote inaendelea Uhuru Park. Kama ni hii mabouncing castle hakuna, juu ni za watoto. Boat hakuna, ni za watoto. Kwa hivyo biashara yetu iko chini kabisa. Hata kulala tulala njaa sometime.
Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
All right, time for us to take a first commercial break, but do not go anywhere. When we come back, our reporter Jeff Kayemba visited a number of isolation facilities in the country and brings you a story of people who have been held in quarantine. Of course, some of them actually extending for 14 more days, according to a directive by the Ministry of Health. You don't want to miss that. Stay with us. Welcome back. Glad you're still with us. Now, a number of Kenyans subjected to quarantine in various facilities in the country have accused the government of failing to combat the deadly coronavirus and has instead resorted to torturing them by subjecting them into hardships despite finalizing the 14-day quarantine period. A visit at some of the hotel and government facilities showed how some Kenyans who jetted back into the country are incurring huge costs before they get services. Our reporter Jeff Kayemba toured some of the key facilities and compiled the following report.
It's about 10 a.m. when we arrive at the Pride in Azure in Nairobi, a hotel facility housing the Kenyans and the foreigners subjected to their quarantine following the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. Greenery and the serenity defines this area, dotted with the contemporary architectural designs hosting the residences. Upon arrival, we are denied entry by the security guards, coupled by the police officers who have been manning this facility for the last 18 days now. Inside this facility are the Kenyans who jetted from abroad and were subjected to the mandatory quarantine as directed by the government. A police officer who sought anonymity says more than 100 people are quarantined here. However, the kind of life they live is horrible. According to him, some of them have been forced to sleep in the verandas and lobbies as they cannot meet the daily expenses. When we talked to the hotel management, they admitted that they charge 9,000 Kenyan shillings per day from the initial 13,000 Kenyan shillings per day. It is said the people upon jetting at the JKA, they were forced to be quarantined at the specific hotels, not minding about their financial status.
After we have stayed for 13 days, it is when the government planned to send somebody back and tell us that we can stay here for 14 days again. And we have families here. I came from where there is no even one case up to now. But because of my family, that's why I've come.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutei Kagu seems to understand the fraud going on in the hotels, urged the hotels to mind about some poor Kenyans.
The government is taking over, you know, the food and so on and so forth. But we are discussing with the hotels and telling them that it cannot be business as usual. Therefore, we are encouraging them before we go into control, because if necessary, we will introduce control over how much they can charge.
With the simple calculations, with each person paying 9,000 Kenyan shillings per day for 14 days, the hotel reaps a whopping 126,000 Kenyan shillings, money that someone did not plan for while traveling back to his country. To add insult to the injury, the government extended the quarantine period for another 14 days, which doubles up to 28 days. This means each and every quarantined person will have to part with the 252,000 Kenyan shillings. Some of the people staying at this facility say their life is characterized with the challenges, terror and hopelessness. The lack of food and personal protective gear gives many a sleepless night. From Pride in Azure, we proceed to 4 Points by the Sheraton Hotel. Here, the hotel management also denies us entry, But according to the security guards, who also sought anonymity, reveals about quarantined persons protesting for being detained even after finishing the 14-day quarantine period. A similar scenario is being experienced at the government facilities, including the Kenya Medical Training College, Nairobi, Moi Girls, Kinyanjui, the Kenya School of Government, among others.
Na mimi nikakuwa sina pesa na nilielezea hata nikiingia nikasema sina pesa. Sasa wamenipatia makaratasi yote na wamekataa kunifungulia gate.
Yes, we know. We are originally when they came, there are those who are paying 2,000 shillings. After a while, a lot of them have essentially not been paying, and we have not kicked them out. And sometimes we got to look at this thing on case-by-case basis.
There are times for you to be released. You have to part with something, whether you are negative or positive.
Supposed to talk to. There's nowhere you will go and find the doctor is the one releasing people in terms of finance. Even you, I'm sure you know.
People are paying 32,000, which are extra money from 28,000 that was supposed to be paid. Will you respond to that? Because we talked to Dr. Aura, akatuambia hiyo ilikuanga mambo ya CS kwa TV. So si ati ni vitu kwa ground and different.
You know why? In government you talk with the letters.
Okay.
If they have not committed themselves,
okay,
then KMTC may not.
The people whose life is in quarantine is equal to jail. And laments the situation at various centers. They say they pay 2,000 Kenyan shillings per day, which equals 28,000 Kenyan shillings for 14 days before they are allowed to leave when their quarantine period ends.
From where does this security call Duncan get these forms from and clear people to go home?
Without paying?
No, you pay, like he will tell you, just pay, forward the message to my mobile phone, and then I will bring you the receipts, you go home.
You know, because there is no problem.
This is a receipt of the quarantined persons who had to clear 32,000 Kenyan shillings to be set free after spending 16 days. A 5 months pregnant woman at the KMTC quarantine center who was cleared to go home after testing negative is yet to be released because she hasn't cleared her fees for the quarantine services.
But now it has come into my realization that if you want to buy your freedom now, it doesn't matter whether you are tested or not, but you just pay and you'll be cleared. Now, like for example, today I posted like I want to go, and I told this security that, hey, can I go home? He said, yeah, there's no problem. Just pay and then go ahead. I will clear you. Everything will be done and then you'll go. So it means we are buying our freedom out now.
That one I am not.
Life in quarantine, especially for the less fortunate, remains a major challenge, especially the financial obligation. More than 100 people have been quarantined at the Pride in Azura in Westlands here in Nairobi. And indeed, paying 9,000 Kenyan shillings per day is not a walk in the park. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Khaemba.
Right, thank you very much, Jeff Khaemba, for that. Now let's cross over to Mwingi, where a 55-year-old man collapsed and died outside Cooperative Bank Mwingi branch along Mwingi Garissa Road in unclear circumstances. According to the daughter of the deceased, Teresia Kavindu, they were walking towards Garissa stage with her father, just as Kavindu, when he started complaining of chest pains and difficulties in breathing, and he suddenly lied down in pain before he died. Eyewitnesses at the scene who alerted the wife and police officers said they could not make an effort of touching the deceased as they could not ascertain the condition he was suffering from, fearing it might be the deadly coronavirus. It took intervention of Mwingi Sub-County Police Commander Peter Mutuma to move the body to Mwingi Level 4 Hospital mortuary for post-mortem.
Nikaona ameanguka. Alipoanguka watu sasa wakaanza kukusanyika hapo, sijui akisema ni corona, sijui nini. Mzee tukampindua, tukamweka pale. Sasa after that serikali ikachukua simu.
Huyo mzee penye alikuja akiwa anaongea na msichana yake kupika hapo, kwa hiyo kutia simu ndio aliangukia hapo kuanguka. Bibi yake ndio alipigiwa simu Sasa vyenye alijua simu akaulizwa kaa anakuanga magonjwa kitu fulani. Akasema akuangi mgonjwa. So sisi tumesikia ripoti tukiwa kule chini na mzee mwingine. Tukasema wacha tukuje tuone huyu ameanguka kwa ugonjwa gani, kwa sababu siku hizi kumeharibika na hiyo ugonjwa wa corona. So kukuja kuangalia nikapata amevaa nguo za makanga. Kuulizia nikaambiwa, lakini si makanga. Kuulizia nikaambiwa ameanguka tu, lakini hawajui ameanguka kwa nini. So wakati nilipiga mkubwa simu akasema hakuangi na ugonjwa yote. So hatujui kama ni pressure ama ni ugonjwa umekuja ya corona. So hatujui. Ndio maana sasa watu wao wakaiko ndio wakampea.
All right, let's cross over to the international scene. And some international students in China are feeling relieved as the lockdown in Wuhan, China is being lifted after the COVID-19 outbreak. But they remain concerned about family back home as the virus has spread to more than 170 countries. Sahar Majid has more in this report, narrated by Kathleen Struck.
When the COVID-19 virus broke out in China, more than 20 countries evacuated their citizens from Wuhan. But many foreign students chose to stay or could not afford to leave. This is one student speaking back in February.
I think it's a very big risk for me to go back right now, so I would like to stay here. If any mistakes happen and I go back to my home, and in 14 days I will already be contaminated people around me.
2 months later, students emerging from lockdown are sharing their thoughts with family members back home, where the number of confirmed cases is growing.
The situation has improved here a lot, about 80 to 90%, but we are still worried as coronavirus has now affected many other countries, including Pakistan, and now we are concerned about our families back home.
Other international students say they want to leave Wuhan and have asked their governments to return them home.
There's a sharp decline in the number of people affected by coronavirus in Wuhan. We are still feeling unsafe, though, which is adding to our depression, anxiety, and fear with each passing day. The government of Pakistan evacuated 6,000 pilgrims from Iran. We are requesting the government to help us and send us back to Pakistan.
Some countries remain hesitant to return citizens from Wuhan, and parents are frustrated.
We will continue our protests until our children are brought back. We have no other demand. We only need our children back, who are dangling between life and death. They are falling victim to depression.
And Janatu Nahar, the student who stayed in Wuhan to limit the spread to her home country, remains worried about her family.
And right now, I don't really regret to stay here, but it makes me sad that back home the situation is not okay, and I cannot get the real. I cannot get any idea what's going on there.
As the lockdown in Wuhan is lifted, a date for students to return to the classroom remains unclear. For Sahar Majid, Kathleen Struck, VOA News, Washington.
Now, COVID-19 means that blood donors are needed now more than ever. A parking lot becomes a blood donation center as medical workers and donors come together in a safe way to keep the blood flowing. Take a look.
I saw in the news and social media that there was a blood shortage everywhere. And I've been a donor in the past and know that my blood is particularly valuable. I have O-negative blood. And so I really felt this was a time for me to come out.
We have quite a dedicated mobile donor base. However, we have had to decrease on that. So high school and college students are, they make up a large portion of our donors in this country. We actually had to cancel every single one of those when the coronavirus outbreak really became a huge problem in this country. So we've not had many mobile drives. We've only had one every other day since then.
For the cancellation of school, it completely canceled the blood drive in total.
But I do know there's a lot of community outreach recently about trying to get people to donate blood, or if they're stuck at home without anything to do, they have the opportunity to come out to a clean environment and do something good for the community.
You know, the students who typically donate with us, they know that their drives have been canceled, so they're coming to the centers with their parents. Or parents are like, okay, you signed up, so why don't you come with me and we can donate together.
My mom is a doctor in the ANOVA system, and she said that they're having trouble getting more donors now because of, coronavirus.
I really think this is one of the things that we're learning here is how much of a responsibility we have to each other, and so that makes it all the more important that people who can give blood do. I'm really not concerned for myself. I'm far more worried about the people who need blood.
All of our employees, all of our staff that are in clinical areas will be wearing masks. We also wipe down all of our clipboards. Again, we use disposable pans. We're going through gloves and disinfectants. We're going through all those supplies, making sure that everything is clean and safe for the donors. And right now we're taking only appointments to be able to, one, provide the social distancing practices that we have in place, make everyone comfortable and safe. I think what happens that in a crisis like this, people want to help, and this is a feel-good way of helping. You're giving a blood product that's going to save someone's life, and donating blood is one of those things that's kind of like a civil service kind of thing that people do they want to help.
I do have a good friend who typically signs me up. We call her Vampire Karen because she's the blood donor of our group. So it's just we're not on the same schedule right now, so I did this on my own based upon the perceived need.
We've adjusted our schedules. We've extended our blood drives. So typically we would do a drive like this in 4 hours. Now we're doing them 6 hours so that we can spread out our donors. We still want to see the same amount of donors, so we're trying to accommodate everyone by having longer drives. We'll probably leave here with about 40, 45 units, depending on how many got through the process for various reasons.
All right, a group of people doing what is really needed right now, and that is ensuring that there is no blood shortage. Well, time for us to take another breather, but when we come back, sports news will be on your way. Stay with us. Former Chelsea forward Didier Drogba has offered his hospital in his native Cote d'Ivoire to the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Now, Drogba, who scored 65 goals in 105 appearances for his country and won the Champions League with the English club during his playing career, has proposed the use of the Laurent Pocot Hospital in Abidjan. The center, located in the Atekoub district, is not yet in a working state, but can be used in a period of crisis. Since the start of the COVID-19 outbreak, 4 people have died and 533 cases have been registered in Ivory Coast. And elsewhere, Italian Paolo Maldini has assured that after recovering from COVID-19, his body still suffers from the consequences of the disease. The ex-star of Milan pointed out that his age was not a problem, but the damage that the virus has left on his body. The former soccer player and his son Daniel tested positive for the COVID-19, both quarantined to overcome the disease and not infect the rest. Both recovered on Wednesday, April 8th, but neither confirmed anything so far. However, on March 23rd, after the father and son announced that they had been infected with the new coronavirus, Paolo Maldini uploaded a video on their social networks to tell that they were well, and that they had the symptoms of COVID-19. All right, and that marks the end of Ebru TV Primetime News, the 13th day of April 2021 month after the first case of coronavirus was reported in the country. Remember, we are at 208 cases so far, but of course we have 40 recoveries as far as COVID-19 is concerned, but with 9 deaths. So this tells you that at the end of the day, we have to adhere by the directives issued by the Ministry of Health, and that is basic hand washing with soap and water. Ensure that you sanitize, make sure that you maintain respiratory hygiene, but most importantly, social distancing. And this is where there's a very big problem. But try as much as possible and stay at home for your own sake and the sake of the people around you. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Not forgetting our sign anchor tonight, Joyce Wairimu, and on behalf of an amazing team who you never get to see, from our reporters to the technical team, the cameramen as well, we want to wish you a lovely night. Remember to stay safe and stay at home. Good night for now.